How to make a table in Microsoft Access 2013. First of all, we're going to select a blank database, and we can give our database a name and select the folder here. So I'm going to do Doctor's Surgery. So I'm going to call it Doctor's Database and click Create. Okay, the first view that we actually see is the data view, and this is where we would actually enter our data. But what we have to do is actually set up the field so that we can enter it first of all. So to do that, we're just going to click on the design view, the ruler and pencil, and give it a name. And I'm going to call this one patient. Now, the first thing we've got to do is set a primary key. Every table should have a primary key, and a primary key uniquely identifies every record within that table. So for this one, I'm going to call it patient ID. It's set to auto number, and it also does not allow duplicates because primary keys should be unique. So I'm now going to add some fields. So first name, it's going to be short text, and I'm actually going to set the field size to 25 characters. I'm going to do second name, and again set that to 25 characters. The address could be quite lengthy, so I'll leave it short text at 255. And then the postcode. Now for Bermuda, what we can do is set an input mask specific to our postcode and how it's actually arranged. So if I go down here to field properties, select input mask, and then choose the zip code. And then on this screen, if I do capital L standing for letter, followed by 99, that will allow me to enter letters and numbers into my postcode. I'm just going to click Finish, and the other thing I want to do is phone number. And the data type for phone number is short text. We should never set the phone number as a numerical data type, even though it's a number, because the zero will disappear if it's got 0 in front of it, and we don't do calculations on phone numbers anyway, so it should be text, which is alphanumeric. We can also add the date of birth in here, which should be a date-time data type, and we could actually set a validation rule in there to determine kind of what dates we can allow. So we could actually have between 1st of January 1900 and dates in the future, and that will allow us to enter dates within that period of time. This kind of proves it for another 85 years. Probably by then there'll be another database built, but there we go. And when we actually enter a date in there now, we're only going to be allowed to go up to the 1st of January 1900 and no date prior to that, because obviously we don't want someone who's going to be too old. We're not going to have someone who's over 115 years old. And gender. Now with gender, it doesn't really make sense to use Boolean, even though there's only 2 options there, male or female, because you would have to ask a question, and gender, are you male, yes or no, to me doesn't kind of ring right. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a lookup, and we're actually going to put in the lookup wizard our own values of male, and female, so that we can select. Okay, now that's done. If we go over to data view and save our table, incidentally we're creating a relational database here, so don't enter any data whatsoever until we've set all the tables up. But just for demonstration, I can put details in here quite easily. Postcode, if I try a number, it won't accept it. It will actually only accept 2 letters followed by 2 numbers. Phone number, date of birth we can choose from here. Now if I do 0101 1783 for example, it should come up with an error. Okay, so date of birth has to be within that range that we set. And then gender we can choose male or female on that one. For now I'm just going to delete this because we don't want to enter any data in there. Okay, so next is we're going to create another table, and this time we're going to create the table for doctors, so we call it doctor. And kind of similar with the ID, doctor ID, probably want to know the first name. Again, restrict the entry, last name, and we probably want to know the address and also the phone number. It's up to you if you want to add email, etc. We could also, if it was like a large surgery, we could put like a specialism in there. And again, we could use a lookup wizard to list the options there for the types of doctors available. But for now, we're just going to leave it with the name and address and phone number so that we can contact the doctor. And I'm just going to click close and save. Now, the next thing we need is what's called a composite table, and this table is going to be the appointments table, and we're going to link the doctor information and the patient's information using foreign keys. So we're going to connect the primary keys from these two tables we just created to the foreign keys in the appointments table. So I'm just going to click on the table and go to design view. I'm going to call it appointment. And I'm just going to change that to appointment ID and its auto number. And then we've got the doctor, and we've got to set this to number. It's auto number in here. It's going to create the primary key for every doctor we enter. And we don't want to recreate primary keys. What we want to do is have the same data type so we can actually see the primary key. So it's set as number data type. Same for patient. And if you wish, you could also just put the ID in there just so that we know what it is, and just select number for that. Now, we also need the date of the appointment. Don't worry if that comes up, date is a reserved word, but it's still going to accept it. So I'm going to put the date in there, and then I'm going to put the time. Now, I could set the time as a date time as well, but most surgeries kind of have appointments every, say, 10 or 15 minutes, so it's probably more beneficial to just basically create a large lookup list and, let's say, make appointments for every 15 minutes. And that way the person who's entering the data is going to have an easier time entering it if they just have to select a time period from the list. So I'm just going to put some in as an example. Okay, let's do till 10 o'clock. I'm just going to click finish, and the other things that we probably want to need is diagnosis, and that could be quite lengthy, so I'm going to switch it to a long text, and treatment as well could be quite a lengthy discussion or explanation, so I'm going to change that to long text. So we've got a primary key, we've got a foreign key for doctor ID, it's going to connect to the doctor table in a minute, same with patient ID. Then we've got the dates where we can enter it. Again, we could set validation rule in here to determine what dates would be applicable. And then the time, I'm going to use a lookup list for that. And then we've got diagnosis and treatment. So I'm just going to close that and save it. Now my next step is to go over to database tools and open up relationships. And I want to select all three tables and choose add, and I can close this. Now the appointment one, in my opinion, is going to be placed in the middle. We can adjust these so we can see all of the fields, and basically what we're going to do is we're going to connect them. So I click on the primary key in patient, so I drag it over to the corresponding foreign key here, and I have to enforce referential integrity, which basically means that the data, if it's updated in one table, it's going to be updated in the other. And the relationship type is a one-to-many because one patient could have many appointments over the years or even months. So I click create, and there we go, one patient can have many appointments. And then ditto for doctor, if I do the same over here. Enforce referential integrity, again it's a one-to-many relationship because a doctor is going to have more than one appointment in a day, going to have several. So click create there, and there we go. I'm just going to close that and save it. And now our three tables are actually connected together. So we can now enter data into our tables. One thing to think about, however, is that we can't actually assign appointments until we've got patient information in there and doctor information, because we have to select them. So the first task would be to fill in details for your patient. Okay, so we've got one patient record. It started at number 2 because I tested it earlier on. I'm just going to close that. And do the same for a doctor. Just put a doctor in there. Okay, and I'm just going to close that. Now we've got one record for doctor and we've got one record for patient. We can now book an appointment. So when I open up the appointments table, I can then choose which doctor I want and which patient I want as well. And then I can select the date of the appointment, and I can then choose from the list the time, and then I can type in my diagnoses. Okay, and there we go. And that's our database set up in Access.